The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our business transformation webcast today. We'll be discussing administrative concepts for Windchill and Integrity performance. I'm Matt Tognerelli. I will be your moderator for the webcast this afternoon. Banish Kumar will be presenting our topic this afternoon. Quick agenda, we will begin with a brief intro, who we are, how we help manufacturers with solutions across the product lifecycle, for those who are not familiar with us or new to our webcast series. Then we'll go right into the presentation around administrative concepts for Windchill and Integrity performance, along with a live demo of how to integrate it with Windchill, and then wrap up with a Q&A at the end. You are in listen-only mode, but you can write in your questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. Quick introduction of Barry-Wehmiller International is a global engineering and enterprise consulting division of Barry-Wehmiller, a U.S.-based manufacturing leader with over 8,000 team members and operations worldwide, going on 130 years of business and approaching $2 billion in annual revenue. Our division provides total solutions across product lifecycle, helping manufacturing leaders drive more business and engineering value. Our customers see BWI as their total solutions partner for enterprise engineering and technology. BWI provides manufacturers end-to-end solutions across the product lifecycle, providing enterprise systems, consulting, and engineering services such as PLM, ALM, ERP, and CRM, along with engineering, design, and development services, including value engineering, control engineering, and more, all the way to offering the entire PTC Product Suite and PLM implementation and consulting. We help manufacturers implement these solutions both as a standalone or as an integrated process. Barry-Wehmiller has a rich manufacturing legacy tracing back to 1885, serving all sizes of businesses ranging from small, mid-sized to Fortune 1000 manufacturers. Our customers choose BWI because of legacy and our deep understanding of engineering technology, specifically within the manufacturing environment. We're now going to go into a couple of quick poll questions, and I'll turn the presentation over to Banish. The first question is, are you using PTC System Monitor to monitor Windchill and or Integrity? Yes, no, not sure. Okay, thank you. The next question. Are you facing challenges in performance and user experience management around your engineering applications? That's just a yes or no. All right, thank you. And the third and final question here, and we will get on to the presentation. Are you interested to hear more about PTC System Monitor and user experience management? Yes, no, or maybe. Okay, thank you all for participating in the poll. We're now going to go in and I will pass over presentation to Banish and let him get into the presentation for you. You are now presenter, Benish.
Okay, thanks Matt for the introduction. Good afternoon everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We are going to discuss, in this webinar, we are going to talk about some of the administrative concepts of Windchill as well as integrity. And we will also talk about some of the tools which can help you in measuring the performance and taking proactive steps. Okay, so what makes up performance? Performance is one word which used to describe multiple scenarios, especially when it comes to application performance. When your engineering demands or when your business demands for a high performance application, they might mean either all of the ones which you see on the screen, or any of them. For example, they would mean, they need a low web latency application. That means the users should be able to access the pages in less amount of time. The business would be demanding for a highly scalable application, because to match your business requirements, you may have to add more users, and the system should be able to support your growth. Or it could be an application which is highly available. It should be available for your engineering or your business all the time when they need to pull out information. So when a business demands about performance, when they demand for performance, it could be either one of them. So let's go ahead and see what really matters, or what makes our life difficult in terms of performance. Any system can be slow or may appear to be slow because of any reasons. The underlying reasons can be a small configuration issue with your client, or it could be a DNS routing problem, or it could be a serious misconfiguration in your server. From my experience, most of the time the performance issues in PTC Windchill as well as integrity are either due to a wrongly configured client, or most of the cases it could be related to database. And the system configurations which you normally see, that we observe in newer systems, basically when you ramp up a new system and if you are opening that system to users, that's a place where you often see misconfigurations which might have occurred during your implementation. Another core issue of performance issue could be the software code problems. So the best practice around that would be to be always in the latest or updated date code of the software which you are using. And again, client issues. It could be a misconfiguration across your clients and stuff like that. And there are a whole lot of other issues as well, like infrastructure, operating system, network, and other related issues which could seriously impact the performance. But at the end of the day, anything which causes performance degradation or performance issue in your system, that is bad. For admins, it would cause, especially for system administrators, it would impact your workload. It will impact your quality of life and job satisfaction, for that matter. And for the end users, it basically affects their user adoption, the comfort level in which they are, using the system, the lack of confidence in a software system and stuff like that. So potentially anything which relates to performance has direct impact on your company's goals. So if your system is not performing well, if your end users are not really using the system, or if they are not able to reap the benefit of the system, then it's going to affect your company's goals. So that being said, let's go ahead and see how to achieve optimal performance. As you are already aware, the success of any software implementation depends on two factors. One, the user adoption. Two, the performance. So user adoption, again, it depends on two things. One, as I said earlier, it depends on the comfort level of the users, whether they are able to find the information at the right time, And the second one, again, user adoption is slightly dependent on performance as well. So to tackle the issues around user adoption, we normally educate the users in how to get the information. But again, we have to make sure that you are providing the right performance to the end users in terms of responsiveness, in terms of scalability, and high availability. Okay, so as you see on the screen, the first and most important step in achieving optimal performance is laying a strong foundation. So especially when you build up a new system, you should make sure that you have a strong foundation in place. The strong foundation in this scenario, I can relate it to infrastructure or the kind of infrastructure setup, network, and things which you have. And most importantly, it depends on, it is the best practices which you install or which you implement in your system. Of course, there should be a trade-off between your, IT investment and the kind of performance. And that is where the best practice can help you with. So best practices in implementation will help you in getting the optimal performance from the infrastructure which you have. In most of the cases, I have seen customers who has a vast amount of or a large amount of resources in the system, but still they struggle to get the right performance. The main cause of that is, the lack of best practices in the implementation. So the second one is, once you have the great foundation or a strong foundation in place, you should test that foundation. You should make sure that that is good enough for your users. So if you are expecting 1,000 users or for that matter 100 users in your system, you should be testing it accurately and periodically to make sure that you are delivering the right amount of quality of service to your users. So once you have the load testing and once you have the baseline optimization done, that means you are aware how your application is going to perform. Then it's all about proactive monitoring and maintenance. You should make sure that you are proactively monitoring the system rather than avoiding the reactive maintenance. That would be often result in costly downtimes and stuff like that. And you should always perform the maintenance activities recommended by respective vendors. So if it's PTC Windchill, then you should make sure that you have all the best maintenance best practices done on the system to ensure that the system will never break. So in today's session, we are going to primarily focus on the best practices and the proactive maintenance, proactive monitoring tools. Okay, as I said, we will be focusing on the two major aspects of that. One, getting your foundation strong by implementing best practices, and second, we are going to talk about a couple of tools which will be very handy for you to proactively take measures to prevent any down the line issues. So we are going to start with some of the optimization techniques for your database. Then we are going to talk about something specific to your Windchill server. Then we are going to talk about the client optimization techniques and as well as integrity server optimization. So basically, Windchill system and Windchill and integrity system support two database varieties or two database categories. The first one is Oracle and the second one is SQL Server. So the first and most important thing about Oracle and SQL Server is you should ensure that you are allocating the right amount of memory for the system, right? So once you have the right amount of memory allocated, for example, if you have 10 gigs of memory in your host system, you should not be over allocating memory, but you should be allocating the right amount of memory which is needed to process the request which comes from the application. Then when you select, especially when you go for an upgrade or when you go for an hardware, an application upgrade or next release of the software, which comes with infrastructure upgrade, you should make sure that you pick the right CPU, because at the end of the day, processor speed plays a significant role in providing optimal performance. So basically, on minimum, we should be looking for 16 MB and 16 MB L3 cache. I've seen that plays a significant role in the overall, application performance. And from the memory is concerned, you should be, of course, memory is becoming cheaper day by day. You should always select a minimum of DDR3 1600 series of memory for your system. And another important topic which I want to emphasize on today is creating indexes. So you should make sure that you have the right indices. For example, I can tell you about indices. Without indices, it's like a reader who is trying to search a book for a keyword. So the user has to search or read through the entire pages to get a particular word. Imagine when you have indexes on the back side of the book, you will directly go to the back of the book and find the keyword, look for the page, and you'll gather the information. Similarly, indexes play a significant role. When you have indexes, the application doesn't have to search through the entire database table to gather the information. Why I'm saying it's important is, I have seen 70% of the cases, we have performance issues in both integrity as well as Windchill due to wrongly placed indexes or missing indexes. So you should make sure that PTC has published articles around indexes on recommended indexes for both Oracle and SQL Server. Should make sure that you have the indexes in place. Once you have the right indexes in place, you should periodically update the database chat. Through database chat, you are educating your database to pick the right indexes when you are querying some information. Last but not the least, we should be selecting the right drive. So if you are using NAS, you should have the right cache, right interface cards. I have seen a lot of issues around drivers. We should make sure that we have the right operating system or hardware compatible drivers installed. And once you have a heavy database in place, or once your database grows, for a global, especially for a global deployment of Windchill and Integrity, you should make sure that you are distributing your IOs across multiple drives. So if you have for example, in case of Windchill, we have application data table that stores a lot of information. We should ensure that that table sits in a dedicated drive. For that matter, with SQL Server, you should always make sure that your transaction log and tempdb has its own drive, because as you know, Windchill, and for that matter, any DBA would recommend the database to be in full transaction log mode or transaction log mode. That is to enable that you have the right level of recovery in place. So you should ensure that the transaction log is placed in its own drive. And again, tempdb also plays a significant role in in the overall performance of the application. So some of the tools which you can use for Oracle are AWR, like Advanced Work Repository, ASH, and PTC has provided a gather info script. That's a script which runs on your database and tells you tell you what exactly is wrong with that your database. It gives a series of outputs. And also you can use PDC System Monitor, which we are going to talk in detail towards the later part of our session. Then you can use for SQL Server, I would really recommend you to have a look into your SQL Server Management Studio. It comes with a lot of handy tools which help you in identifying that you have all the best practices in place, or if you have any bottlenecks. Okay, now we talked about the important aspect of the application, that is database. Let's go ahead and see what all things you should be focusing on the application side. For that, let's talk about Windchill first. In case of Windchill, we should make sure that Windchill has the right amount of memory. So PTC has a tool named Windchill Configuration Assistant. You might be already aware of that. That's a pretty good start point for any new implementations, or for any whenever you make a hardware change, it's always recommended to run WCA. It will give you suggestions regarding memory or resource distribution. So, for example, one common mistake or one tip which I want to give now is when you allocate system memory, you should consider that you are not over allocating than what is available in your server. For example, when you have a monolithic architecture with one single node, You should make sure that you have enough memory in your system. You distribute the memory equally between, or you should make an educated way of distributing the memory. Another aspect which we tend to forget is perm space. The perm space in Windchill or in JVM, it's outside your memory. So basically, people tend to forget that they have allocated perm space and they over-allocate memory, thereby result in performance issues. Then another tip which I wanted to give is about the JVM settings. You should make sure that you have the simple JVM settings. When you play around with JVM settings without testing it out on a low priority environment, it's always a risk, especially the garbage collection parameters. And I would always prefer to have a cluster when you have 100 and 150 active users. That will give you much more scalable architecture that gives you in segregating the load between multiple servers, thereby taking off a runaway transaction scenario. Another one is query limits. Once you have the right memory in place, you should ensure that you are setting the query limits to ensure that the server will not overrun the total memory allocation. Then another aspect is cache. Just like any other application, cache plays a major role in performance. So cache is the area where the application stores frequently accessed data, so that it doesn't have to go all the way to the data sources to fetch it. So thereby reducing the access times, improving the I/O. This is very critical. Especially you should be focusing on principal cache and remote object ID cache, and there are a bunch of other cache as well. You should make sure that you have the right cache in place. Then another one is preferences. That is one thing which we tend to forget. We should make sure that the client systems or your end users has right preferences. For example, in workspace, you see several status columns like out of date, compare, attributes. You should make sure that you make use of views. View is a way of filtering what should be presented or what should be fetched. So you should make sure that you are selecting only the details which you need. Imagine you have 100 users at a time, and if they are pulling all the information from the server side, that's going to load the server. You should ensure that you are. There should be a trade-off between what you want to show to the users. You can enforce it from a server level. Another one is of collection. When you do an add to workspace or when you do a checkout, you should make sure your default preference is configured light so that it will pick only selected information. And the bottom line of PTC Windchill implementation, or the bottom line of obtaining the best performance out of PTC Windchill, lies in sizing the hardware right without over allocating. That's where a best or trusted implementation partner can help you with. The partners will have enterprise application deployment best practices which they might have earned over the time from their experiences with successful implementations. So the bottom line is again right hardware infrastructure, rightly sized one, and employing the best practices. Okay, now that we spoke about the server settings, I want to touch base with you on the general browser as well as the client settings. So since Windchill is a client-based application, it's a web-based application, you should ensure that you use a right supported client OS. It's always preferred to have either Windows 7 or for the matter Windows 8 with right browser, probably the updated browser. I have seen a lot of performance issues because of browsers. The latest browsers which are available in the market like Chrome and latest version of IE, that comes with advanced Java search engines, JavaScript engines, so that can process your pages a bit faster than the older versions. As you know, Windchill uses Ajax technology in the backend. So at the end of the day, your browser should be fast enough to process that and display it. Next, you should, when you are deploying Windchill over a WAN, you should make sure that you are using mode expert. That is, Windchill has both dynamic as well as static pages. You don't have to push the static pages every time. So using make mode underscore expert module, you can ensure that you are not pushing the static content all the time. Again, registry settings. PTC has provided a set of registry settings which is recommended for browsers, and TCP stack out of tuning is another bummer. You should make sure that you have the right TCP out of stack tuning, especially for Windows XP machines. The latest machines are pretty well configured, so we don't have that risk there. Then once you have the clients implemented, you should make sure that you run PTC Client Inspector. That is a utility through which you can benchmark your client. PTC Client Inspector will validate your client settings and ensure that it is as per all the recommended practices. So now the latest version of PTC Client Inspector, you can run it remotely. If you are a global administrator or a global consultant supporting a global implementation of Windchill or Integrity, you should make sure that all the clients are standardized. Again, for Creo and Workgroup Manager, basically PDM is one aspect of Windchill where you can store, you can use PLM as a single source of repository for all your CAD and MCAD and ECAD data. So there, you should make sure that you have the right config.raw options. There are a list of config.raw options which are available from PTC as a recommendation. And feel free to reach out to us as well. We also have a lot of best practices around Creo and Workgroup Manager. So a couple of them are like configuring multiple network threads and configuring compression for your WGM request. And always make sure that if you are using a latest browser, you should have IE in process. If you are using Internet Explorer, that gives you the best download speed. And if you have a global distribution or a global deployment of Windchill, make sure that you are using replica file servers. And for integrity, make sure that you are using FSA. Hope that gave you a clear idea on some of the client system settings which you should be focusing on. Okay, now that we spoke about PTC Windchill, let's see what are the configurations which are essential for integrity. So for PTC Integrity, we should again make sure that memory settings, you have the right GC settings in your integrity server side. So GC plays a significant role since integrity deals with code data. You should make sure that you have the right GC setting. And as I said, for Windchill, you should always start with simple JVM settings, which comes out of the box or which comes as recommendation from the vendor. Another important topic is, in case of integrity, I have seen a lot of times the client memory exceptions will get logged in your server. Make sure that when you get memory exception in your integrity server log, you should ensure that you have the right memory in your server, you have right memory in your client. And if you are using FSI, you should look there as well. Some of the server parameters regarding integrity performance are, the first one is about cache. Again, the SI cache, bulk data cache. Should make sure that the size of the cache are accurate. And BD cache and stuff like that entirely depends on the disk space. You should ensure that you have the right amount of disk space in your system. Then again, proxy, you should again in the FSI proxy server, you should make sure that GC is set up accurately. You should enable compression. That is again an important thing. When you are using FSA along with PTC Integrity Master Server, you should make sure that the compression is enabled so that the traffic between the master server and the proxy, those are compressed so that it will not eat up your bandwidth. The last but not the least is the client system. You should make sure that integrity uses a stick client. You should ensure that you have again the right heap and stuff configured in your integrity client. Max executor threads is another parameter which you should be accurately monitoring. It comes with default value of 300. You should make sure that that is enough for your workload, for the activities which you are performing. Okay. Sometimes people tend to increase the value of that, and that will overrun the, that will basically eat up the entire resources in your server side. So again, same for integrity. The crucial factor is rightly sized infrastructure and application deployment best practice. All right, now that we talked about how to set your foundation strong, there are a couple of other topics as well which are very critical, like infrastructure. Especially when you are deploying it on a WAN, you should ensure that you have the right amount of latency. Because of time constraint, I'm not able to cover that. But again, if you have any questions regarding the network and infrastructure, your virtualization, please feel free to reach out to us. Now that you have a great foundation, a strong foundation after implementing with all the best practices, you should be focusing on how to monitor and measure that performance so that you are consistently delivering a right quality of service to your end users. The first and most important tool which I wanted to discuss today is with you today is PTC System Monitor, and we're going to talk about user experience management and a couple of tools around SQL Server. All right, let's basically when you talk about monitoring and measuring, we can categorize that into two. You should be basically monitoring your user experience. That means what kind of performance your users are experiencing. And you should also be keeping an eye on the system health. That is very critical because both of them are interdependent. If your system health is bad, it affects the user experience. You can see a bunch of tools which I have outlined in my slide. Today we will be covering PDSM with a Dynatrace UEM that can help you in identifying what sort of user experience your users are observing, and also the PTC System Monitor that normally runs on the server side and helps you in educating you about the kind of performance or the resource utilization, and it will basically help you in identifying the bottlenecks. There are a lot of other tools which comes with the latest release of Windchill, a lot of JMX tools, Java default, visual VMs, almost all of them are very handy in troubleshooting, but PDC System Monitor is really helpful, will be really helpful when you are troubleshooting performance issues. So what is PTC System Monitor? PTC System Monitor is PTC's OEM version of Dynatrace application performance management tool. So Dynatrace is one of the pioneers. They are market leaders in APM. So as and when the internet evolved, most of the companies are focusing both on functionalities as well as performance. And Dynatrace is one tool which is mostly used by Fortune 300 companies to manage their application primarily on the e-commerce and insurance and financial chains that can, they basically use Dynatrace to monitor their application to ensure that they are delivering the right amount of performance. So basically, the PTC System Monitor, which comes, licensed for all the maintenance customers at no incremental cost. So you don't need to spend, any investment for the license of PTC System Monitor. The benefits, some of the benefits which we are going to talk about today are, it can monitor all your transactions. I mean, when we were in the older releases of Windchill, the administrators with whom we were conversing with, they always treated Windchill as a black box, probably in the Windchill 8 and Windchill 7 releases of Windchill. So PTC System Monitor will give you granularity into what's happening in the backend. It will monitor your system 24/7. So if you want to look at your historic information, it will provide you that details as well. Second one is it will give you in diagnosing the issues. So suppose if someone complains about a performance issue, that helps you in rectifying or diagnosing that. Another one is reporting. If you are tasked with reporting the performance details back to your management, this is a tool for you. And on top of everything, PTC System Monitor is a complete set of application performance management tools, along with incident management, which can be used for your PTC Windchill as well as Integrity. It's not just about that. Dynatrace, can go one step further. It can manage or it can monitor all the applications like SharePoint and other your enterprise-wide applications and serve as one single repository or one single tool for your application management, performance management, and incident management. Next, we are going to talk about the user experience management. As I said, PTC System Monitor, that's a tool which runs on your server side, and it goes packet by packet and tell you what exactly is happening in the server side, going all the way from the application layer to the database layer. Dynatrace UEM, the user experience management tool or plugin, it's an extension to PTC System Monitor. It gives you click-to-code visibility. I bet it's something that's a developer's dream. You want to see how your code is performing right from the browser click till your database transactions and method transactions in the backend. So as you see on the screen, PSM, it monitors the method server and Oracle. It gives you or the database, and it gives you a clean view or intuitive view onto the transactions happening inside the server. And UEM, it will tell you what exactly is happening in the browser side, what's happening in the network side. All right. Okay, let's have a look into what UEM can offer and how it would be useful for you in your organization. All right, this is the entry screen of the PTC System Monitor. What you see is, as I explained, you see end-to-end transaction, right from user's end through desktop browser, all the way to server components like method server, and on the back end you see my SQL Server database, right? So this is the entry screen, or this is the transaction flow which PSM along with UEM offers you. You get end-to-end granular visibility into your overall system performance. All right. So let's have a look into some of the aspects, some of the main aspects of PTC System Monitor. I will start with host monitor. This is one of the most critical information which any admin or any consultant would like to see. So this window will give you, or the host information will give you information on how your host was performing, the CPU usage, memory, disk, and net. That means your network transfer. There's one single page which shows you all the information. You don't need administrative rights. You don't have to wait for an administrator. So as soon as I clicked on the host details, it will give me side-to-side comparison of, what was my server manager's memory consumption, what are my other Windchill components consumption, side-to-side with the CPU usage, memory, network utilization, and disk usage. This is really handy in troubleshooting any of your infrastructure issues. This will give you read-only access to all the information which is provided if your systems are managed by your system administrators, and if you don't have rights to see that, and if you want to narrow down some of the performance issues related to your server, this page adds a lot of value. So let's go back and see the second aspect. The second aspect is application. So this window will give you information on what's the load on your application and what's the failure rate. So if your users are experiencing extensive failure in terms of transactions, this is the window which will give you input around that. So basically, if you see, this is the throughput of your application, that how many requests is getting processed. This is one window which will help you to measure whether your server is oversized or undersized. If the throughput is large, you should consider moving into a scalable architecture. Then failure rate will tell you what's the failure rate in the last 72 hours. I can even narrow it down further to additional time frame. I can even see the data from last month. So it stores as a performance data warehouse, storing all the details. The next one is a response time. So as of now, I don't have any load on the server, so that's the reason you're seeing 0 millisecond as the response time. Then it gives you information regarding system health as well. Okay, so this is all about application. So you saw in one window how your system is performing, how your server is performing, are there any errors, what is the performance or end user response time. So another aspect which we will be observing today is end user experience. So end user experience is all about the performance which your end user is observing. So right now your transaction is outside your server. You have a global installation of your application. So if you want to see more details about how your application is performing across the globe, this one single page, this dashboard will give you information on how your users are, what your users are observing. So you can narrow it down to your respective geographical areas. If you have, as you can see, I have users in Europe, and the system will automatically benchmark your users' experience based on, are they satisfied? Are they getting satisfied with the amount of performance? This threshold you can set up as a part of your baseline optimization. Another one is user action contribution time. This will tell you what is the contribution of the flow performance, like what is the contribution of each factor, how much your network is contributing, how much your server is contributing, and what's the performance your end user is observing. And another one is if you want to get more details about what browsers your end users are using. This will give you granularity into that. So this is an important way. In one of my previous engagements, we used this utility extensively to identify whether the clients are using the right browsers, especially when people are using or end users are using IE7 or older browsers. They of course tend to see a lower response time. So we can sitting at the other part of the globe, you can find out what browsers they are using, and user action counts, synthetic user transactions. If you are periodically running automated test scripts, this will tell you what sort of user action your test scripts were performing. So if I want to dig detail and get more details into, for example, if we got a complaint that one of the users is getting a very poor performance, so what I should do, I can go here and search for the user visit. Just like you are searching a spreadsheet, you can search for your, username. That will tell you, that will take you directly to, the search page, and it will directly tell you what exact transaction was going on. So this is just like searching your spreadsheet. You can search by, the username. You can search by the kind of transaction they were using. So you can, if they're complaining about I to workspace or content download, different dashboards, different business transactions, you can search by that as well. But what I'm going to show you now is how I am going to drill down to your user visits. So I can go here and find out, the visits. So you can, if you go to the details, you will be able to see the visit details. That is, it will show from which geographical area the user logged in, what browser he used, what sort of experience he observed, and IP address. And another important stuff is the duration. So you should be looking into duration, how many failed transactions, if the user has seen any kind of any sort of errors, then this is a place where you should be looking at. So again, going back to that, let me show you how to dig down and dig detail into your transactions. So again, I will show you some of the satisfied visits. So I will drill down and show you the pure path. So you can see here the user action pure path on what user did for each of the transactions. So in my case, I could see that these users, he got a response time of close to 14 seconds. So if I want to get detail on where the, why he observed a wrong or slow performance, I can go and see the transaction flow. That will tell me the contribution of each of the layers. This is the information which you love to see when you are troubleshooting an issue. It will tell you whether it's a problem with desktop browser. So if you see here, Only 4.73% of the time was spent on desktop browser. So rest of the time it was spent on method server. So we should be focusing on troubleshooting issues or optimizing your Windchill server. So this gives you the granularity on where exactly the problem lies. Okay. So another aspect of that is you can see different web requests which happen for the loading of this Windchill app page. So you see different URLs which were fetched. Okay. And if you want to drill down to a corresponding server transactions, I will show you how to drill down to your transactions. All you see is certain mouse clicks. Once you implement the system and if you get a quick crash training on this, it's very easy to use. All I am doing is just clicking on, drilling down on right pages. So if I see this is the saved search window, which took a lot of time. So it tells me what are the methods which ran on the server side. Okay. On the right hand side, you see the pure path hotspot. On it show a graphical view of what all classes got executed and the breakdown where it was waiting. Was it waiting on CPU? Was it waiting on IO? Was it waiting on suspension? And if you want to see again, read detail and see the database, what I'm doing is I'm just going here, clicking on this window and going to my database. This will tell me the details on what all SQL queries happened in the backend. During our initial stages with Windchill, if you remember, we had to wait for the issue to get reproduced to troubleshoot an issue, right? You have to wait for, you have to scan through the logs, you have to wait for the issues to get reproduced after enabling the logs, right? So that by using this tool, which comes with PTC Windchill and Integrity, it shows all the, it stores all the information, and you can drill down to different windows like infrastructure, network, operating system by the click of some button. So here you will see the SQL queries running in the backend. Okay. How many times it ran. You can also export this and send it to PTC support or your partner who is assisting you. So PTC technical support has expertise in exporting out, in analyzing this session. You can just right click and say export for this particular user section, and it can be sent to experts for their further analysis. So it gives you all those kind of information. Okay. All right. So that's about the user experience management, but there are a lot of other operations or dashboards which comes out of the box without any configuration changes. You would see several dashboards where the informations are segregated. You can see dashboards starting with D, that means those are diagnostic dashboards, and you can see dashboards with M, that means monitoring dashboards. So if I want to see the Windchill application overview, I will select that dashboard. It will tell me the information on how my server was behaving for the last 30 minutes. You can filter it down to months, or if you are using for a long time, you can drill down to years as well. This is one dashboard which we normally keep open in our consoles to ensure that the production application is working fine. Okay. So again, if you aren't interested in always troubleshooting or always digging into this level of details, if you are traveling and if you are accessing, if you want to access this through web, PDC System Monitor offers dashboards which can be accessed through any browser, including mobile browsers. So what I'm going to show is the dashboard, web dashboard of the PTC System Monitor. So if you are traveling and if you still want to keep yourself informed about what's happening on the server side, what performance your users are getting. So this is a dashboard for you. This is mobile friendly. You can access it from your phone or your laptop or your iPad. So it tells you basically a quick peek of what's going on in the server. It tells you what sort of response time your users are observing, how many user tracking transactions, are there any failures, and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So let's see how it can be useful in case of integrity. So integrity, you can use basically if you are both PTC Windchill and integrity users, you can use one single server to monitor your integrity Windchill. And if you are using, for that matter, SharePoint, you can use this tool to monitor your SharePoint download speeds and stuff like that. So I will just quickly show you some of the features in integrity. Integrity also comes with a lot of dashboards. It's again free for all the maintenance paying PTC customers. It comes out of the box. So I'm going to start with integrity overview dashboard. So that gives me a quick peek of how my server was behaving in the last 365 days. So if I go further narrow down, I will see incidents as well. This is another aspect. Incident management is another critical aspect of PTC System Monitor. It follows standard ITIL process and ITIL best practices involving the root cause analysis and tying all the way back to your incidents, your issues, all can be managed inside the PTC System Monitor. So if I open my overview, what I am seeing is some of the business transactions, some of the thresholds which I had set. For example, the item open, it reached its upper limit. I had set out an upper limit for my view item transaction. So I can get more details by going to another dashboard. So I can open a dashboard and I will go to integrity. Okay. That's about license. License is another aspect which you can monitor. I picked the wrong one. So if you want to see how many licenses of integrity you can use, your users are currently using, this can be used for that as well. So let me quickly open the integrity usage. So this tells me, how my system was performing. If you see here, there were a couple of events where my overall server transaction went above my threshold. So I can again go back and, I can drill down and I can say pure path. Okay. You can say a transaction flow. You can select, the JavaScript errors, or if there are any JavaScript errors running on the, on the server side, you can go and, pick that as well. You can compare different pure paths. You have a lot of options. So with a little amount of training, you will be able to, dig this level of data from the system. So if you see here, my open item has been waiting on an IO. That means it has been waiting for some information from other systems. So I can quickly go here and find out for what information it was waiting on. So you can see it has been waiting on execute query and has been waiting to read that information from the server side. So what I can do is, as I know that this has been waiting on database query, how I know? I can come here and say details. So when I say details, it will tell me the class files, it will tell me JDBC. From here I understood that it's waiting on database. Or I can go here and say drill down and I can go to database. I can see the SQL query which caused this problem. So you can see this query. This took almost close to 3 seconds to execute for one-time execution. So this is a problem. So again, you should be focusing, if you are not a DBA, you can provide these details to your DBA. That will again give you more details on that. And DBA can create indexes based on that. Okay. Let's go ahead and see, now that we spoke about the, how to monitor your application using PSM and user experience management, I want to quickly show you the activity monitor in SQL Server. You might be already aware of how to monitor it. This tool is very handy. Of my experience in troubleshooting performance issues, the activity monitor has helped me a lot. So let's give it a second to open. So it's a part of your standard SQL Server Management Studio, which comes default with your SQL Server. Whenever you buy SQL Server, you will get it as a packed product. And this is the most important window which you should be looking at. This will give you a quick peek of what exactly is happening on the server side, on the SQL Server front. You have your login information. You will see your database queries. Anything which shows consistently high values here is a concern. Okay, so this here, from here you can see the process, you can see the application. Okay, you can see the user who is running that application, and also if you want to see what exactly is that transaction, you can go to details and get the SQL queries. Again, this is a read-only page. You will not be able to modify much of the items other than killing some of the sessions if you have permissions. Okay, this is again this will give you again details on database file IO. Basically, database will have to, whenever you seek information from database, it will have to fetch from the corresponding data file. So it will tell you if you have any bottleneck in IOs as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Now that we had a quick peek into the different tools, what we are trying to solve with PSM. With PDC System Monitor implemented, you can, I don't have to probably explain to you about the, the performance issues, the kind of trouble which you can get into. Often I have heard from our customers that, because of server performance issues, they are getting completely pressurized from the corresponding business. And you can prevent the downtime by, proactive monitoring rather than doing reactive troubleshooting. So downtime, of course, I don't have to again explain that how much downtime will cost you. So all your problems, all the problems regarding the performance, if you don't know why your server has been rebooted or why you need to restart your server to get back your performance, or if you want an additional admin, I would like to put it in that way. If you need an additional admin to watch your screen or watch your application while you are away and notify you when there is a problem, this is a tool for you. All you need is a hardware investment. That is, probably in this time of virtualization, you can spin out a quick VM and, configure it. And again, if you want to go one step further, if you're a global deployment and if you want to see how your users are experiencing, what sort of performance your users are experiencing, UEM is your product. So UEM will give you details on what is the role of the affected users. It will give you a quick peek of where the user is located. It's an extension to PSM. These licenses can be procured from directories. So this is very handy tool, which as you have seen in my demonstration. Once again, thank you for joining today's webinar. If you have any questions, you can reach out to one of us, and Matt will be sharing our contact details right after this. Thanks again.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can please submit those questions now. We'll do a quick wrap up.
Okay.
We will do a quick wrap up here, and as a reminder, we do archive all of our webcasts on our website, bwi.com. For you to view at a later date. Also, PTC Live is next week. If you'd be interested in speaking with Banish further about the subject or speaking with one of our solution managers, Mike Mills or David Hines, please contact us and we'll be more than happy to set up a meeting with them while you're in town. Also, if you have any questions about the webcast today, please submit them now. Send any technical questions or requests to myself, matt.tognerelli@bwi.com. My contact information is listed below. I'll be able to take care of any follow-up requests from this webcast. Let's see what we have in the way of questions here real quick. Looks like we have one. Customer says, we're running into a compatibility issue with Chrome. It will not support Creo View in the next few weeks or months. Yes. Oh. Now,
okay. Okay, PTC is aware of this issue, and we have a published case solution for this. PTC R&D is trying to work around that scenario around NP-API login, NP-API vulnerability. It's because of a browser vulnerability which preventing Creo view from getting launched inside the browser. As of now, we have a workaround for that till September. So after September, probably we will get a get an update from PTC about that on alternate way of launching Creo view from the from the Chrome browser. So basically, we are looking at an July-August time frame for that. That's what I heard from our product management from PTC. So of course, as of now, we have an active workaround. So I will definitely keep Matt informed about the changes in that. If you get a permanent update from PTC on that, and definitely we will keep you informed.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, PSM looks good for admin. I have a question regarding PSM for running this report. PSM uses extra loads for method server or DB.
If you ask me about a stats, it uses very less amount of overload on the server. Basically, PSM sits on its own architecture, and it uses pure part technology. What it will do is it will inject lightweight packets into your actual communication with your server, and it will capture all the parameters and provide it to you. If you ask me about the overload, it will be very much less than 2%, and almost all our global implementations which we have done, we are actively using it without any performance overhead.
Just a couple more questions. Is there a trail version for user experience management software? Whom should we contact if we would like to test the UEM tool sets on our environment?
So you can always reach out to us if you want to know more about the user experience management, and we will be more than happy to help you with a proof of concept in one of your development environments and show you the benefit of user experience management. Okay, and we can probably provide you training as well on as you have seen, with a light amount of training, you might have already noticed that how much useful it's going to be for you.
Okay, and one final question, we'll wrap this up. I know we're running a little bit late here. Is PTC System Monitor, PSM, meant to replace other semi-automatic and manual performance monitoring and measuring tools?
That's where the enterprise applications are moving ahead. From your legacy way of monitoring it using JVM and using Log4j log readers, that's where the entire application, if you look at different applications like PLM, ERP, and your web applications, it's moving to a more dynamic and more comprehensive way of performance management. By using PSM, we can disable the native monitoring tools, but I would always keep that as a side. If it comes handy at times, if you have to cross verify certain things, I use that. But of course, this is one place. PSM is one single dashboard which can replace probably 5 other tools. You don't have to look into SQL Server. You don't have to look into application logs. You don't have to look into web server logs. You don't have to look into client logs. So especially when you are, again, I'm repeating, when you are managing a global installation of your application, you cannot go back to each of the client system and get the logs and capture the data, or probably when it comes to historic data, it is even more challenging. And when you are dealing with cross distributed teams, if your DBA is sitting at a different location, and if your application operating system administrator is sitting at a different location, and if you want to use one dashboard to see all the information without waiting for them to come back with the data which you are asking for, this is a solution for you.
Okay. All right, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on the next webcast. Everyone have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to working with you with our next webcast in about a month or so. Thank you, and have a good day.